Good morning, everyone. It's really wonderful to see all of you. On behalf of the Creativity and Invention Working Group, I'm delighted to add my welcome to that of Stan McKenzie and to say how pleased we are that this symposium has generated so much interest and enthusiasm, both on campus and beyond. I'd especially like to welcome members of the Rochester community who have joined us today, including John Park and Nancy Camaros, members of the College of Liberal Arts Advisory Board, and Rochester art consultant Nancy Bucket. How is creativity understood, taught, practiced, and expressed across the disciplines at RIT? How can we foster an environment that values creativity? Why is creativity important in education, in collaboration, in leadership? These are a few of the questions that emerged last spring when I began approaching colleagues from across the Institute to see how their experiences with creativity complemented my own as a teacher of creative writing. The results were surprising. One person suggested I talk with another, who led to another. And by early summer, a group of interested individuals, many of whom had never met one another before, began to meet regularly, to share readings, to talk about projects we had worked on or knew about, and to consider how we might stimulate a campus-wide conversation about creativity and its place at RIT. During this past academic year, we have focused our energies on two projects: the Unlikely Partners collaborations, about which you can hear more at 3:30 today, and this symposium, which grew from modest plans for a faculty panel to a very full day-long examination and celebration of creativity. Before I introduce today's speaker, I want to publicly thank some of the individuals who have supported this symposium, especially Lynn Wild, Assistant Provost for Teaching and Learning, Mary Beth Cooper, Vice President for Student Affairs, Kip Mayberry, Vice President for Academic Affairs, Stan McKenzie, the RIT Provost, as well as Andrew Moore and Glenn Kist, the past and now interim deans of the College of Liberal Arts, respectively, who have been generous in their support from the beginning. I would like to ask that you take a moment to read over the names of the Creativity and Invention Working Group members listed in your program. 19 faculty from colleges across the Institute and the Academic Support Center, and 6 students, some with fascinating double majors, who have all worked for months to organize today's events. Dean Ganskop, who may or may not be in the room but was up till 2 in the morning, the organizer of the Digital Arts Competition and Exhibition, has been a creative and tireless collaborator as we interwove these two events. We've also received generous organizational support from Lynn Wild's office in the person of Susan DeWoody, without whom this symposium simply could not have taken place. One last thing, I'd like to ask that you take the time to fill out an evaluation form before you leave today. We tried to make it very simple. You can use the same form whether you only attend one event, such as this lecture, or if you stay for the entire day. In any case, please take the time to fill it out. We are very, very interested in your feedback and suggestions. In organizing today's symposium, Creativity, Technology, Invention, we had 3 aims: to generate a campus-wide dialogue on creativity, the creative process, and the role of creativity in collaboration through panel presentations by our working group members. We wanted to celebrate the creative productions, publications, and inventions of our colleagues and students with performances and exhibits. And very importantly, we wanted to bring someone to campus who could help inform our discussions with contemporary research on creativity and its applications. Thus, one of the first commitments we made in arranging the symposium was to invite Dr. Gerard Puccio to present the keynote address and to conduct a hands-on faculty workshop. Dr. Puccio came very highly recommended. He had already given a successful Faculty Institute for Teaching and Learning workshop last year on using creative thinking skills to manage complex problems. Many people on campus had looked forward to his return. Last fall, Susan Donovan, Zerby Sodervik, and I traveled to Buffalo to meet with Gerard and see how his work in creativity might complement the efforts of the working group. What we found was a dynamic individual, generous with materials and ideas, whose most recent work in creativity, that is, creativity and leadership, could have important implications for RIT. Dr. Gerard Puccio is Department Chair and Professor in the International Center for Studies of Creativity at Buffalo State College. This unique academic department offers the world's only Master of Science degree in creativity. Dr. Puccio has written more than 40 articles, chapters, and books. His most recent book, co-authored with his colleagues Mary Murdoch and Marie Mance, is titled Creative Leadership, Skills That Drive Change. He's an accomplished speaker and consultant and has worked with major corporations, numerous colleges, and universities. He's delivered creativity workshops and presentations in various places all over the world. In recognition of his outstanding work as a scholar, Dr. Puccio received the State University of New York Chancellor's Recognition Award for Research Excellence. He holds a Ph.D. in Organizational Psychology from the University of Manchester, England. His address this morning is titled Creative Thinking, an Imperative for Higher Education in America. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Gerard Puccio.
Thank you, Ann. Appreciate it. Well, good morning, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here for several reasons. As Ann mentioned, and thank you for the warm introduction, Ann, I do many presentations, and of all the audiences that I work with, it's my colleagues in higher education that I derive the most satisfaction from, because I feel as though I am working with individuals who have the capacity, who are in positions to do the most in terms of leveraging creative potential. And I think it's absolutely crucial that we begin to look at seriously how to deliberately provoke, enhance, nurture creative thinking among our students as we send them off into their profession. So I'm really thrilled to be here. It's also nice to be able to get into my car and drive to deliver a presentation as opposed to an airplane going halfway around the country or the world. So it's nice to be able to come someplace in my own region. So for that, I'm very grateful. Now, I have to admit, I'm feeling a little blue this morning. I am a Buffalo Sabres fan, and I went to my first playoff game ever last night, and unfortunately, the team didn't play up to its skill level. So I'm hoping that your energy is going to pick me up. I'm also hoping that my screen's going to reappear soon. There we go. So let me handle a question that you may be wondering about. Anne mentioned that at this International Center for Studies in Creativity, we offer the only MS degree in the world in this particular area, and it's located in Buffalo. And particularly as I travel to other locales around the U.S. and around the world, people wonder, Buffalo, New York, International Center for Studies in Creativity in Buffalo, New York? How is that? Why is it not in New York City or Washington, D.C., or I was chatting with Tony in San Diego, California, cosmopolitan location? There's a reason. Actually, there's a person, his name's Alex Osborne. Just to give you a little history, quick little history, we were founded in 1967. So this September, we'll be celebrating our 40th year as a department at Buffalo State. And there was a visionary. His name's Alex Osborne. He's the reason why we're in Buffalo. Alex Osborne is a very well-known, very famous Western New Yorker. How many here know Alex Osborne, have heard of him by reputation? So one hand here, 2, 3. Okay, this very famous Western New Yorker. Okay, well, Osborne wrote a book back in 1953. Osborne was a senior partner in an advertising firm located in New York City. The firm is BBD&O, Batten, Barton, Durstine, and Osborne. Obviously, in advertising, you think creativity, creative thinking, that will give you the edge. If you're not creative in advertising, you're not going to capture the attention of your audience. So Osborne did much to deliberately develop methods to inspire creative thinking. And he wrote about these methods in a very well-known book, New York Times bestseller list, came out in several editions, translated into half a dozen other languages. Book's called Applied Imagination. So this famous New Yorker wrote a very popular book called Applied Imagination. How many of us have heard of Applied Imagination? Very famous book, Applied Imagination. Okay, so Osborne, this visionary who wrote this book, Applied Imagination, introduced many methods for deliberately provoking creative thinking. One of those methods that he introduced in this book, I'm sure, if we're playing baseball, 2 strikes now, try one more pitch. I'm sure something that we've all heard of. He was the inventor of brainstorming. How many of you have heard of brainstorming? Okay. So Osborne introduced in this book this method, this technique called brainstorming, but he also introduced an entire model, a thinking model for how we can encourage creative thinking, brainstorming of which is only one tool that can be used. Now, Osborne in 1953 identified the importance of creative thinking in the workplace. He saw it as a crucial skill to be successful. And the goal behind writing his book was to articulate ways in which we could be systematic about, deliberate about nurturing creative thinking, rather than leaving it up to happenstance. And so his vision, his goal, was to have an impact on education, so that as students left their educational experiences and they joined the workforce, they were prepared to tackle difficult problems, that they had the confidence and the thinking skills to effectively think through complex problems. That was his dream, and that's why he founded our department. Now, unfortunately, Osborne, after many years of trying to establish this department and making his vision manifest, unfortunately passed away the same year the program was established. So I'm here this morning to share in a very brief presentation some tidbits of information, some of the highlights out of what we teach in our graduate program and from a field that has really been around for some 50 years. In fact, I would invite anyone who wishes, as Ann did, to come and visit us. We have what we believe is the world's largest collection of books on creativity. We have 4,000 some books and a special collection, non-circulating collection in our library. So we have many resources, and I do consider you all to be colleagues. And my passion now is to help other universities to embrace the deliberate nurturing of creative thinking. So that said, you have the PowerPoint handout for this presentation. This presentation has been tailored for you this morning, but you may notice when you look at your handout, on the top it says Utah Valley State College. That's simply because I took that file, messed with it, and then forgot to change the master slide. So. Okay, so what are my goals this morning? I have 4 goals. First is describe the nature of creativity. So I'll share with you some definitions of creativity and talk about its relationship to innovation, talk about the critical role that creativity plays in the workplace. So as we look at providing educational experiences that prepare students to join the workforce, how are we doing with respect to developing this important skill that's now being viewed as a critical skill in the workplace? We'll explore reasons why creativity is considered a core leadership competence. That's an area that I have a great deal of passion for. I've been doing a lot of thinking about. And then finally, identify ways in which creative thinking can be deliberately enhanced.